Hello. Surprise, surprise. Hello. Man, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on, and that's not typical for me. So I figured I would get on tonight and talk about some things, some inspirations, and things that I've been mulling over in here uh, about the end of the year and preparing for the new year and what that means in terms of getting something different from your life. Hi, Robin. Good to see you. I'm looking at my lipstick in the in there, and man, it's a high commitment lipstick. Yeah, I love this time of year because it is so full of the prospect of new beginnings and a fresh start. And it's just so potent. And I want to let you guys know if you're new to the human design journey that thank you, Robin. Yeah, it's part of the topic tonight. I would just want to let you know that this whole cultural thing of this whole cultural conditioned framework that we operate in at the new year and at the end of the old year, and this year it's like the end of a whole decade and we're hopping into a new decade. uh, that all of that energy that kind of calls out this uh, false sense for most of us who don't have a defined will center, a false sense of willpower where we feel like we can do a whole bunch of stuff and stick to our new diet and our new wellness routine or a new exercise routine. I want to remind you that, first of all, if you don't have a defined will center, that is probably not going to be very productive for you, but you can still enjoy the collective energy of the prospect of new beginnings at this time. Um, and that I want to also let you know that we have a lot of time for the new year to emerge. January 1st in the collective cultural mainstream thing is or mainstream framework of the new year. It kind of puts a lot of pressure on a lot of us to get out there and start that new thing and get it up and running. And in reality, or in human design reality, and I don't have my mandala here, but if you look on the mandala, the new year starts at the gate 41, and I haven't looked up the date. It's somewhere around the 22nd of January. So we begin our trek around the mandala um, again at the gate 41, which is the gate of, I call it the gate of new dreams. Like it's down there on the root center, pointing up toward the throat, and has to go, the whole channel has to go through the solar plexus and up to the throat. So it's like that first inkling of the new dream that will grow into a desire through the 30, and then through into experience, and up to the throat through that channel of the 36, 35. It's a long way from that throat center, that center for manifestation. So, um, enjoy this time right now, this time where you have a few more days, really a few more double digit hours to look back on everything that you've accomplished this year, everything that you have weathered if you've had a particularly stressful year, and and take this time to really relish the um, the time that you have, or relish the accomplishments, the gains that you've made, the things that you've learned this year, the dreams that you are just beginning to dream, the seeds that you are just thinking about putting in the ground for the new year. um, there's plenty of time. there are plenty of times, and the cycle hasn't even begun yet to plant those new seeds and birth that new dream. Yet there's all this energy, right? There's this energy a lot of times of letting go. I was talking to my husband today about what are we going to do for New Year's Eve, and I like to be very introspective on during the new year. So or New Year's Eve. So I don't like to go out unless it's a really good party. But I really like to be home, and tonight or today we were talking about how we've been away for we went away for Christmas, and not for a joyful thing. We've got a family member who is choosing to transition. So we'll probably be away again after the new year. Um, and our house is just a mess. And we were talking about how I was telling him how I would love to stay home on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and just get our house in order. So I'm wondering what you like to do on the new year, or how you like to mark this transition in the calendar year, to get prepared or to tie up loose ends. I'd love for you to chat that in if you'd like. Yes, it's been a stressful 10 years. I was looking back on the last 10 years, my last 10 years. My last 10 years started with, I'd been separated from my first husband for about 2 years. I had sold my massage business, but I was still working in it. And 10 years ago, I made that final transition out of that marriage. And it was, yeah, and it was stressful. I was just, human design was just trying to come into my life at that time as well. Having an ice storm. Oh yeah. Sometimes ice storms are really good for giving you an excuse to rest, or snowstorms. How many times when you were a kid did you hope to have a snowstorm on the day or the night before a test, and you wouldn't have to go to school? So, well, the topic tonight is the title, or the thing that I thought of as the title for this, is how to get something different from your life. And this is kind of coming from my own excitement about tying up loose ends, and my excitement about tying up, starting new things. And for me, I know my process. Hi, Pamela. Welcome. I know my process. I'm a 3-5 projector. I like to experiment. I got an air fryer for Christmas from my father-in-law, who also, unfortunately, is the one who's choosing to pass on to transition out of this world. And it was like the best gift ever, because it's going to be the last gift that I get from him, but also because he didn't know that I had been wanting an air fryer forever. And it just showed up in this big box, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I've been trying different things, experimenting with food. and I'm not one, I like to cook when I'm in the mood, when I have the energy. But when it comes to experimenting with things, like, I wonder if I can make an omelet in this air fryer. What can I do beyond French fries? So every meal I've been trying something different in this air fryer, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's my process. So what I really want to tell you is, if you want to have something different in your life, you have to be different inside. And that doesn't mean being not yourself. It means being more of yourself in a different or an upgraded way. And the way that's kind of showing up for me, and I'd love if you've been thinking about this, or working with this, or feeling that energy as well, love for you to share how it's showing up for you. But high commitment lipstick. I've been experimenting with different colors. I don't know about this. It's a lot of commitment. And this is one of those high pigmentation lipsticks. And I'm not much for, or I'm not yet comfortable with committing to color like this. So we'll see how this goes. But little things like this, putting my hair up has been another thing. Letting my gray grow out is another thing. And I'm just sort of putting things out in my experience or trying new things in my experience uh, to see what is really more aligned, a more aligned expression of what's shifting inside of me. Um, And Pamela, you just had an insight today about the 3313 channel, about creating your new story. Yes, the 3313 is, that looking back on the past, listening to other people's stories, reconciling your past, the story of your past. Yeah, that's a very potent channel to contemplate at this time. Um, Yeah, yeah, hide the gray. I was thinking about a different color, actually, a totally different color, like periwinkle. We'll see. I'm growing it out too because I like wearing it up. I had it down yesterday, actually, in keeping with being different or being more aligned, showing up differently. That's another way that you can get something different from your life, is to show up differently for yourself in your life, whether it be in creating new habits, not like the rah rah rah, I'm going to the gym every day, that's my New Year's resolution habit. Unless you happen to have a defined will center, then go for it. If you're a generator and you're responding to it, or projectors, if you're invited to go to the gym or whatever, you'll have the energy for it. But for the rest of us, it's really about showing up differently for yourself. And that's where I'm going to be going in, where I've been going especially the last few months, and where I'm taking my business in the next few months, or over the course of the next year, and we'll see what sticks. But showing up for myself in a different way is, you're probably going to see me do more live streams, because I realize that in order for me to make progress, I have to try a lot of different things. I have to do things when my defined spleen speaks, when my root motor is on, and when the momentum is there and I'm inspired. So these live streams seem to work very well with that. So it's not like I'm going to totally ditch planned content, but this is probably going to be uh, a lighter, finer, faster moving version of my content creation. So just be prepared for that, and uh, I have a friend, getting off the subject of business for a little while, but I have a friend who is a data analyst. She's kind of like my surrogate sister, I guess. I'm half Korean, she's full Korean, and we've toyed with this idea of creating a YouTube channel called 1.5 Koreans, because we get ourselves into some crazy things when we get together. But neither of us really has a bandwidth for that, because both of us are, in her profession, she is really trying to move forward professionally and get promoted. And in my business, it's the same kind of thing. I'm expanding what I offer. I'm tweaking and bringing more of myself out in a way that is aligned or in a way that really supports you guys in and in a way that is aligned with the way that I function. So hence the lighter, finer, moving along, showing up differently. We're having this conversation. We've had quite a few this fall about how it's important to stretch ourselves and do things that we wouldn't normally do. And if you work from home, a basic thing around that is, getting dressed as though you were going outside to work or to your office rather than staying in your sweatpants. That's like the work from home dream. You get to stay in your pajamas all day long. And if you've done it for a period of time, that doesn't work, you know, and things like, doing things that you wouldn't normally do because it's not part of your regular socializing routine, or what you do for leisure or what you do for your job or your regular day-to-day routine. So we've started doing things where we are pushing ourselves to sort of get out and do different things. So yesterday we went to the theater to see Fiddler on the Roof. And and that's not, live theater is not something I usually make time for. It's got to usually, in the past, here's a 3313 story for you, Pamela. In the past, it has had to be a special occasion or whatever, but this was one of those things where it was like, okay, we're going to do this because neither of us gets out of the house much because we're in front of the computer, and it's going to force us to be presentable in public, not just from the waist up. I'm actually not wearing sweatpants. Sometimes how it is when you're on screen, you're wearing something comfortable below the waist, but wear something that is nice jewelry, you know, put on makeup in a way that is not just makeup like, run what you would do if you were running to the bank or to the grocery store, and just be in that with ourselves in that different way, in a different environment. And our theory is that when we show up differently and we stretch ourselves by doing things that we would want to do that, we wouldn't normally do, it gets us out of our comfort zones and it forces us to show up, to upgrade the way that we show up for ourselves. So I'm sharing that with you because I really want you I want to invite you and I want to encourage you to consider ways that you can do that in your life so you can experience yourself in a different way. Because when you experience yourself in a different way, in a way that you perceive as more upgraded, in a way that raises your, energetically speaking, your vibrational frequency, it brings out a piece, an experience of your authenticity that you may not have had access to before. And then those of you who have an undefined G center, going to a place that feels good to you, going to an environment that feels good to you means that you are among people that feel good to you. And that sort of shifts you and turns on your I don't know, your magnetism, and just does stuff in your system to raise your frequency, align you more, and make you feel good. And when you feel good, you attract good, or you attract better things into your life. So so I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah. So what are ways that you can do that for yourself, or what are ways that maybe you've been doing that and you haven't realized, or you've been doing that and you've been dying to share it with people. When we went to the theater yesterday, we left early because the theater that we were going to is 2 hours from here, and one of my Christmas presents was, okay, this is probably too much information, but my husband used to buy me like he saw his dad early, you know, was conditioned, so to speak, by his dad, because he saw his dad buy his mother you know, a nice piece of lingerie every Christmas. So he started doing that for me until I just got too much of it. And then he thought this year he would buy me a nice piece of lingerie because it had been a while, but he knows that I'm like, don't buy me any more lingerie, don't buy me any more bras, I have enough. um, and I'm sort of practical in that way. So he ran it by me. He said, you know, I was thinking of getting you another piece of lingerie, and I'm like, you know, I'd rather have shoes. And he was like, yes, I was thinking that too. Because a lot of times I wear my shoes. When I get a pair of shoes, I wear them like hiking boots and I wear them out. It doesn't matter how nice they are. If they feel good, they look good, I'm going to wear them all the time until they're worn out. So I've worn out all my favorite shoes. So this shoe place that I wanted to go to get new shoes was where near the theater. So we had to leave early. And so we did mall shopping, which I never do. And we went to this place. It's called the Walking Company, where they make you walk across a pad and they analyze your feet. And I kind of knew what shoes I wanted, you know, and it was just, because on a symbolic level, doing something different like that, uh, by really investing in the foundation, the symbology of shoes being the foundation of your steps forward, was really powerful for me. You know, it's something that shifted the way that I carry myself, because I found the shoes that I wanted. They were half price and then 25% off, more than that. And then I was able to, because I wanted to stay within a budget, I was able to actually buy a second pair of shoes that were half off that I really wanted, and with an additional 25% off. And both pairs of shoes came in under the total budget. So I wore the first pair, my first choice, out of the store, and I was walking differently. I was carrying myself differently. And somehow I feel like that's related to some of these little insights and thoughts that have come together about how if you want something different in your life, you have to be different inside. You have to show up differently for yourself. So it can be in clothes, it can be in what you're going to let go of, that no longer serves you, that you don't want to take into the next decade with you. It can be, you know, simply starting a new habit where you decide you're going to get 2 more hours of sleep a night, and you set an alarm and you start your nighttime routine early, or you start a nighttime routine. You know, it could be diet, it could be exercise, it could be, you know, making all your food in an air fryer, whatever it is, whatever lights you up in a different way is what's going to call something different to you. So, you know, I don't want you to go and do a lot of head work around this. Like, you know, you don't have to make lists about what you're going to do differently or anything like that. Just notice the opportunities that you have to do something differently. Like, you know, if you get up in the morning, like I noticed like a few weeks ago, when I was getting up in the morning, I started a different routine. And for me, with having so much logic in my chart, I write out everything. I have like my morning routine on my mirror, and then I have another sequence of that in the kitchen that I have on a card, so I don't forget anything, you know, and I practice my routine. So where was I going with that? So I noticed in my morning routine, because I had everything kind of down, you know, kind of down pat about do this, you know, do that, do the next thing while you're at the mirror, you know, that I noticed that I had time or space in that routine to consider, what kind of jewelry am I going to wear today? And I don't normally, or I haven't in the past, there's another 3313 thing, another story from the past that I'm ready to let go of, because, or ready to put in the past. I haven't in the past considered wearing jewelry. It's usually like just throw on the easiest thing, put on a little makeup, comb my hair, brush my teeth, go. So I've had time to consider, what am I going to wear for jewelry? What am I going to wear for earrings? Maybe I want to wear different earrings. So it can be those little things, or even like changing your color palette, changing changing what you eat in the morning, changing. One thing that I changed that was really good in my routines is when I used to in the past get my coffee and then go and meditate. Like take my coffee, put it in my hand, go to my meditation place, put it in my hand. My coffee would be cold by the time I was done meditating, but I was like my signal to go, and this is time to go within and get centered. I actually don't do that anymore. I don't make my coffee until I've actually emptied the dishwasher, because that makes my day go so much more smoothly when the dishwasher is empty, because there's not a backup when it comes time for me to eat. And then the dishes don't pile up in the sink. So once I do that, as part of just switching that out, where I do that and then I get my coffee and then it's time to go and do my quiet time, I've actually created a more streamlined flow in my day, in my morning, that really cascades into more productivity later on in the day. So it's just little things like that, in the movement, in your movement through your day, or how you show up for yourself, or what you say to yourself. Sometimes it's that. I've said what you feed yourself, what colors you put on your lips. If you're looking at like shifting something in your business, it can be something as simple as shifting your color palette on your website or in your branding. And I don't know if any of you've noticed that, but I have my same logo. I have everything, but somewhere around the middle of last year, because I discovered that I actually resonate with a slightly different color palette. And I work with, I have a designer, web designer friend of mine who, brand designer friend of mine who really worked with me on that. She used Carol Tuttle's work on Dressing Your Truth as kind of the framework for that. We tweaked the colors on my logo just a little bit, and it made a huge difference energetically in how I felt. And it also seemed to correspond with some really interesting collaborators who came into my life shortly thereafter. So color has a frequency. What you put in your body has a frequency. What you say to yourself has a frequency. How you carry yourself or how you move creates a frequency. So just be aware of that in terms of being different in a way that you are more attuned to you or expressing more of you. So, you're going to see all of this. I'd love to see what you guys are doing too, in terms of being different, showing up differently for yourselves. I want to know what that is for you, what you're trying and experimenting with. Some of you, if you're like a 1-3 profile, for instance, you may choose one thing to investigate and try it out, to very deeply go into it, really research it, really try it out, and then decide whether or not it works for you. So if you have a 1 in your profile, you might do it that way. but do it in a way, do these shifts in a way that feels good for you. You don't have to do them all at once. You don't have to follow every inspiration that you get. And certainly, if it's not in alignment with your strategy, hold on to that inspiration and shift those things internally to see what shows up that's in alignment with your strategy, to see what generators, what shows up that and how you're responding to it, and projectors, what shows up that you're that who shows up to invite you and whether those invitations feel correct for you. Reflectors, what shows up over the course of a full moon cycle, and manifestors, what shows up that you want to do, and how you're going to initiate that, and who that impacts, and whether or not that's a good thing for you to initiate. So, you know, these opportunities for shifts and changes, and being able to have a different experience in your life, can come about in all kinds of different ways. In my business, getting back to that, I'm going toward lighter. I've discovered over the last, I don't know, probably the last 3 months, I've really become hyper aware of what feels heavy, and what energetically kind of slows down my own splenic process, my own creative process that's very experimental and spontaneous. And I've done my best to kind of let go and reorient the way I do things. And one of the things I've realized is that I light up when I light up certain things, certain awarenesses or certain insights for other people, or where I turn on lights. Like if you've had a reading from me, you know that I come in and I point things out in your chart that turns on lights for you. And that's something that has sort of, that awareness has prompted me into putting something back online that I hadn't done in a long time, or really not done seriously in a long time. And that's some of the energy work that I do. And it's called energy alignment, or I call it energy alignment. And it's where I go into your soul record and I look at your human design, and I am the facilitator for the higher streams of consciousness that you can have access to kind of light you up in certain ways, light up certain things about you, and activate you energetically to take aligned action that helps you to be different and more aligned inside of yourself. And that feels really light, and it feels really buoyant. And a lot of people have tried it out and they love it. So I'm really looking forward to offering more of that in the new year, trying not to get too far ahead of myself with that, and just kind of work out my process, because it's kind of a new process for me. And in the past, that had been very, very, uh, the technique, the way that I learned, the technique that I use to get into the Akashic records and get the information I need was very, very heavy to me. So that's why I didn't do it. I learned it 10 years ago. I did it for the first few years into this last decade, and then I just couldn't do it anymore because it was too heavy. It was exhausting me. And then through these years of doing it for myself, doing my own inner work, working with people, family and friends, it finally has come together in this lighter, finer way that just moves energy. And it's so much fun to do. So, what in your life is just so much fun to do and moves a lot of energy so that you can just sort of shine your light in the highest, brightest possible way? That's what you can really open up to, that will change and shift, um, and open you up to getting something, to a change that will allow you to, or bring in something different into your life. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know uh, if I'll be on, I may be inspired to be on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, but I'm not making a promise on that. And I'm experimenting with some software and stuff to see if I can, how I can stream in a better way, and stuff like that. So we'll see. Maybe I'll come on with a different hair color the next time. I'm not sure, but just wanted to pop on and turn on some lights about um, having something different in your life, and how you can begin to take steps toward that in very aligned ways. So I hope this has helped you. I'm the 21st century Edgar Casey. Thank you, I think. I don't know if Edgar Casey wore this. I don't know what this is called. This is called, yeah, this is a year of upgrading a lot of things like my eyes. I can't even read that. Anyway, it's a red, high pigment color, cruelty-free lipstick that really requires a commitment, because when you put it on, it commits to you. So anyway, thank you guys for coming on. Thank those of you who are watching this later. Thanks for putting up with my red lips and my gray hair. And thanks for just riding along on this journey with me. I have really appreciated and enjoyed these past 360 some days of this year with you, and sharing things with you. And I'm so looking forward to more. So thank you, thank you, thank you. More to come. And if I don't talk to you before the new year, have a wonderful, magical end of 2019 and end of this decade. Close it out well. It's a sacred time. And open your new year in at the pace that you are comfortable with, that really allows you to shine your light. So have a nice evening, everyone, and we'll talk again soon.